We're listening to the So Now What podcast with Lana Manikowski, episode number 178.
So now what? These three words raced through my mind time and time again during my journey through fertility treatments. I tried desperately to have a child, but never was able. I yearned for a community to join that could understand my struggles. I couldn't find one, so I created one with the So Now What podcast. I love that you found us.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of the So Now What podcast. If you're watching me on YouTube, I need to know, what do you think about my new glasses? They just arrived today. If you're not watching me on YouTube, you might not know that I have a YouTube channel, and every week I upload the podcast where you can see me in motion recording if you're not up for listening to the audio only. But anyway, I am obsessed with this company that I found on Instagram called Look Optic, and they have the cutest cheaters. Because I got to tell you, girl, when I hit my 40s, stuff started getting really hard to read. I ordered 3 pairs, so keep watching. Every week I'm going to try to remember to put a new pair on. So you got to check out my new specs, because I'm kind of warming up to these. I'm not used to having ones that look like this. But anyway, yeah, what do we want to talk about with you this week? So I want to first remember to invite you to something that I know will be absolutely so valuable for you, especially if you have ever been on the receiving end of comments like, why don't you adopt? Or pray on it, or don't give up, miracles happen, or my personal favorite, you can have mine. If that is something that irks you, I am teaching a free masterclass. I have not taught a free masterclass in, probably almost 6 months. So you will want to get on the horn with this one. It is happening on August 26th. It is going to be virtual, so no matter where you are in the world, you can tune in. It is called The Things People Say and How to Respond. Because let's be honest, it is one thing to go through infertility. It is another to still be navigating the awkward and minimizing and sometimes hurtful things that people say, especially because your journey didn't end with the child that you dreamed of. In this class, I'm going to walk you through real grounded ways that you might consider responding, not just a script that you got to fumble for, but hopefully a mindset shift so that you can stop feeling invisible and start standing in the truth of your story without feeling like you need to apologize how it ended up. The other thing that I'm hoping that you'll get from it is a better understanding of the work that I do. And you can actually see the work that I do to help women realize that they don't have to live in a bubble to avoid certain people because of the things that they say, or maybe going to certain social events or being around your friends with kids. Because I think it's really hard to have to live our lives in a bubble because they didn't end with the child that we dreamed of. So in this class, you are going to learn a lot more than just how to navigate these conversations. So if you're wanting to join, you can register in the show notes. I'm going to put a link. Make sure you come because it's going to be awesome. So this week, I want to talk about the part of infertility that does not get enough airtime. What it feels like when you walk away from treatments without a child and feeling as though there was absolutely no evidence that you did anything. You spent years organizing your life around trying to become a mother. Your life was probably in a holding pattern. You were tracking cycles, going in for baseline blood works, lining checks, medication alarms, pharmacy trips. You lived by a schedule that people really don't understand, that you gave your body literally to science and you gave it to hope. And when you walked away from fertility treatments with no baby and no pictures and no proof that you even did all that you did, not even a positive pregnancy test. Like for me, I never once was pregnant. And to feel as though there was this thing that you were doing time after time and have nothing show for it, this can be absolutely haunting silence around your, not because you're silent, but because people don't know how to communicate or talk to us and ask us. And even when they do, sometimes they're not prepared to hear the answers that we have to tell them, because it can feel like you spent years climbing a mountain that no one even noticed. You were all in it. And when it didn't work, it was like the world just kept going and like nothing ever happened. And it could be hard to feel like people don't understand you, even though you tried for years. You probably hoped and hoped and hoped, and then grieved again, and then tried again. And you did the most tender, vulnerable, and courageous thing a person can do. You continued to build your life around a dream. And then when that dream didn't come true, you had to figure out what the hell comes next. This is what I call disenfranchised grief. This is the grief that isn't widely recognized or acknowledged by society. So I'm curious, do you even know that that's a term? A lot of people don't know there is such a thing as disenfranchised grief. I want to talk about it today because when you're childless after infertility, it's not like there's an obituary or a memorial or something that you can post without saying or thinking that you didn't really lose anything, but you did. You lost an identity that you thought you were going to grow into, a future that you've been picturing for decades. Like most of us early on in our lives had baby dolls, right? And we thought from the early years that we were going to have this thing to nurture, and rituals and traditions that you thought you were going to be part of. First days of school, birthday parties, Halloweens, Christmas mornings, and the hardest part, you're grieving something that never got to live outside of your imagination. When you look at your own story, you might still feel this need to qualify your grief. And maybe you find yourself comparing things that you went through to other people around you or other people that were going through fertility treatments and did get pregnant and maybe had a miscarriage, and compared yourself thinking, well, at least I never miscarried. At least I didn't have to give birth to a child stillborn. And I should be grateful I didn't have to deal with X, Y, or Z. And I want you to notice when you do that, that is not peace. That is self-abandonment. That is wearing a mask of gratitude. And I know that you probably have been told that that's what you should be doing to make yourself feel better. But I want to talk about the realities. That is what I do on this podcast. That is why most people come back and listen to this podcast episode after episode, because I don't think we should sugarcoat it. I don't think we should have to convince ourselves that we are okay by comparing our stories to other people's stories with thoughts like, well, at least I didn't have to, or at least I still can. That's not helpful. Okay, you don't have to love your story to accept it. And you don't have to compare your pain to somebody else's to validate it. And absolutely, you do not have to stay silent because you never held a child in your arms. You were in the throes of infertility. This dream was something that you probably thought was going to be so easy for you. And oftentimes we don't talk about it because it's complicated. Because it didn't end with a crib or a baby shower or a baby book. But you're not meant to live in this place of being invisible forever. You don't have to sit there at girls' nights nodding your head, acting like you understand what they're going through because you've never lived it. You don't need to make an excuse. You don't need to minimize yourself. And you are most certainly not meant to keep excusing the story you live just because it might make other people uncomfortable, right? How many times have you kept quiet because you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want them to feel bad, or I don't want to hurt their feelings or make them feel like they're upsetting me. So you keep quiet. And in the end, what you do is end up upsetting yourself and leaving there feeling invisible. You are not meant to keep quiet about your grief because it's not the kind of grief world knows how to hold. And it is not your job to shrink your story so that others can stay comfortable. So many people ask me all the time, like, how did you do it? How are you living this life that seems so abundant and so full and something that you feel so proud of? And so this is the best that I can tell you, that it is up to you to take this next step. It is up to you to reclaim your voice, to find your footing, and to build a future that you feel connected to. And yes, I know it is hard to do when it feels like everything you hope for is off the table. But I promise there is so much more available when you stop waiting to be understood by the world and you start learning how to show up for yourself. You don't have to stay in this fog. You don't have to stay in this holding pattern that feels like you just don't know what to do next. You don't have to keep trying to prove that your grief is real. You already know that it is. I know that it is. And once that you know that, like really know it, everything can start to begin to change. You can stop performing. You can stop comparing. I mean, I just talked about this on one of my posts on Instagram this past weekend. Go back and look at it. It is a really powerful post that talks about living in this life where you have this mask on and this act on, where you're exhausted because you feel like you have to continually act as though you're feeling a way that you don't feel. Because it's so important that you stop questioning whether your life has value without the milestones of motherhood. It is time that you realize that you can start living differently and you can start choosing what matters to you and noticing what makes you feel alive again so that you can start giving yourself this connection and this creativity and purpose that you thought only bringing a child into the world could bring to you. You stop trying to fix your past and the things that didn't happen and start to figure out how to shape your future. So if you felt invisible and if you've wondered whether your story matters, I hope this episode is the reminder that you needed today, that you are not alone in this. Even though things did not work out the way you thought, you are not broken, and you don't have to be an afterthought in your own life. You are a woman who has this powerful story and an honesty to yourself and to the world that is so important that you recognize, even if nobody else understands it. And you get to move forward, not because it all makes sense, but because even though your story didn't end the way that you thought, your story still matters. The way you view yourself and the way you see yourself as somebody who is childless after infertility is important. And even if nobody else understands it, the fact that you can understand it is everything that you need to create a life you love. So I hope you have a beautiful week. I love you. And remember that it's never too late to discover your meaning. I'll talk to you next week.
Hey, real quick, I just wanted to tell you about an awesome resource I created. If you have ever found yourself in conversations with people, or maybe people offering you suggestions about what you should do to become a mom, it's called the Top 27 Things People Say When You're Childless and How to Respond. You can get your copy free at lanamanikowski.com/thingspeoplesay.